Get all the news and controversy of the NFL right here on the Blitz Zone with your hosts, Eric Rosen and Jamie Hickson, as they discuss the hot topics concerning your favorite players and team, the winners, the losers, the big plays, and the big hits from around the league. Right here, only on the Blitz Zone.
Week 2, everybody, and man, do we have a lot of things that went down, especially the Giants losing against Dallas on that late touchdown.
Oh, brother.
How about the sacks that took place this week, including Aaron Donald and the St. Louis Rams beating the Seattle Seahawks? How about the Jets in their first game under Todd Bowles? By the way,
now you're talking.
Welcome, everybody, to your favorite NFL show and college football show. Welcome to week 2 of the Blitz Zone. We're live on this Friday, September 18th, 2015, from the studio of CTV in Staten Island, New York. I'm your host, as well as Rashad Jennings, his best friend named Eric Rosen. I was told I wasn't allowed to host this show anymore, but that's not the case. And here next to me is my main man and partner on this magic carpet ride throughout the season, the sportsman himself, Mr. Jamie Hickson.
Eric, it's a real pleasure speaking with you. I wish it had been on some better terms. I'm still a little cranky about how that Giant game ended, but we're going to be talking about that ad nauseum.
Yes, especially the nauseum part.
Yeah, emphasis on nauseum.
Well, anyway, before we get into some of the recaps of week 1, which I'm so happy that the season began, we're going to get into the news of the week, starting with Adam Pac-Man Jones, the cornerback for the Cincinnati Bengals. Of course, Cincinnati beat Oakland 33-13 this past week. During the game, there was a 60-yard run by the Raiders that was called back by a holding penalty. So Jones and Cooper kind of tangled on the turf. Jones pushed Cooper's helmet off his head, and then he knocked Cooper's head into his own helmet. And what happens to Pac-Man Jones? Does he get suspended for this action? No, he gets fined $35,000 by the league. $35,000 this guy gets suspended. A guy who's started incidents in strip clubs and got somebody shot, who's been in so much trouble throughout his time in the league, and we thought he cleaned up his act with Cincinnati, but apparently we're seeing the old Pac-Man Jones in action.
Yeah, you said it best, partner. I mean, this is a guy who obviously has not done any growing up whatsoever. You would have thought that with a violent act like this, there would have been at least a 4-game suspension coming up, but it's painfully obvious that the disciplinary powers that be did not really think that much of it.
I know, it just really upsets me to the max that this took place. Honestly, Pac-Man, this is a rookie player. You are a veteran. You should know better than that.
But it's gotten to the point where something has to be done about this guy. I mean, you mentioned the shooting at the strip club many years ago. That resulted in a guy being paralyzed from the waist down, and he's still having to go through the pain of basically having his life destroyed. And while this guy is struggling mightily day after day, this knucklehead is still earning a living in the NFL. And it just goes to show you what a backwards world we're living in right now.
It's really upsetting. Let's hope that the league will maybe get this correct. But then again, I doubt that, because
don't count on it.
This is a league that unfortunately didn't get correct with Tom Brady's situation, with the
Tom Brady's situation isn't really that much of a problem, because the only thing with him is he supposedly was accused of covering up the fact that footballs were being deflated during the Colts game this past January. But that pales in comparison to what that creep Adam Pac-Man Jones did.
My point is that the NFL, unfortunately, has a bad history when it comes to disciplining their own players. Yeah. So hopefully maybe somewhere down the line they'll get it right, but I doubt that. Anyway, let's get into some other news that's going to be taking place at the Houston Texans stadium, Energy Stadium. They're switching their grass field to artificial turf for the rest of the season after about 5 players from the Kansas City Chiefs complained about the turf in the Week 1 27-20 victory that Kansas City had.
Interesting that they're going to be, that one stadium at least is going to be going back to artificial turf. When you consider that a lot of players' careers were either cut short or all and out ruined because they wound up tearing their knees on turf many years ago. Now, could this be a sign that maybe more teams will be going back to the turf somewhere down the line? I wonder if they're going to be doing that in Atlanta when the Falcons get their new stadium, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, in a couple of years.
I wouldn't be shocked. Honestly, I think a lot of these new stadiums are going to go to artificial turf. You know, even Jadeveon Clowney, the number 1 overall pick last year at South Carolina, had microfracture surgery in December last year and complained that the grass turf, the natural grass turf that they have at NRG Stadium, might have contributed to his injury. And again, some of the Kansas City Chiefs players complained in Week 1 when they beat Houston 27-20 of the grass turf. And the way they do is very unique. They grow it outside the stadium, and they bring it in trucks, and they assemble it like a puzzle piece. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be doing that anymore, apparently.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the case for the Houston Texans. We'll see how this works for the rest of the year. Maybe J.J. Watt will like it.
Just remember, there have been a lot of non-contact injuries, specifically knee injuries, that have taken place on both surfaces, turf and grass. Mm. Something tells me this is going to make matters a little bit worse if they decide to go to turf here.
Well, it's already happening. Oh, and you know, this year, of course, the NFL decided to make it a 17-yard kick for extra points. It's no longer automatic after you get a touchdown that you're going to get the automatic extra point. Mm-hmm. Now they backed it up 17 yards. So it's 32 or 33 yards that they have to go for the extra point. It makes the games interesting. But already there's been some extra point misses, including Randy Bullock. Talk about the Houston Texans. He's their place kicker. Missed an extra point last week. That sailed wide right. Mm-hmm. His first in, 67 career attempts.
I really don't have a problem with the rule. If anything, it does make the games a little bit more intriguing because of the missed extra points. If anything, I think you might be seeing more of the 2-point conversion being used in future games. And when you think about it, wasn't this really the reason why they decided to use the 2-point conversion in the first place? Because it seems to me like there's been more and more of a lack of faith in the kicking game than anything else.
I know. It does, at least it gives these teams options to do that, mm-hmm. Considering if their place kicker is missed, say, a few in the game and they are not relying on him to get the extra point, yeah, it could make the games very intriguing to see them going for that 2-point conversion. And the way things are looking now, they're currently on pace to have 70 missed point attempts with the way things are going right now through just the first week.
Which means you're definitely going to be seeing an increase of the use of the 2-point conversion in this game.
All right, let's go into some this next section right here. Signs, trades, and extensions. Well, in terms of trades, the Patriots acquired more depth for their wide receiving core. That's right, Keyshawn Martin. Talk about, again, Houston Texans, because I'm on such a Texans binge tonight. Keyshawn Martin, the wide receiver who was 3rd or 4th on their depth chart, is now a New England Patriot. Mm-hmm. And New England not only acquired him, but a 2016 6th-round draft pick. And they gave up a 5th-round draft pick for next year.
It doesn't really surprise me. I mean, it's not like the Patriots were sorely lacking for receivers anyway, because they do have Julian Edelman, who's become such a great go-to guy for the Patriots recently, but he's really going to bolster a major strength that they already have.
Well, along with Danny Amendola
and Danny Amendola too,
and Aaron Dobson, mm-hmm. So they already got them. Now he adds to that depth chart, and he's a guy that he's utilized mostly run after catch plays. That's the kind of skill set that he has. And he'll be used on return plays too as well, punt and kick returns. And, he came out of Michigan State in the 4th round in 2012. He's had only 416 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 38 receptions. Maybe that will increase that he's got Tom Brady as his quarterback. Jake Long, the number 1 overall pick, 2008, who got drafted by the Miami Dolphins, then got released by them back in 2013. Didn't re-sign with them after 2013. Then signed for 1 year with the Rams. Now is an Atlanta Falcon.
Yeah. And the Falcons have had major problems on their offensive line. Let's see if Long can rediscover his old magic that he had with the Finns.
I know, because last October, he tore his ACL. But he got cleared by Dr. James Andrews, who I've always called Dr. Death for most athletes, because when you hear his name, that's it for a while. But you know what? He's had 96 career starts under his belt, so he does provide that experience. He'll be put on the left side of the line. Let's see what he does this week against the Giants defense. And then Tyrone Crawford, of course, the rookie, 4-year veteran who's about to have his rookie contract end, got a 5-year, $45 million extension to be with that Dallas front seven. You combine with LaMarcus and, of course, Randy Gregory, and boom, you got a good defensive line for years to come. $25.7 million, fully guaranteed. There you go. And finally, the Redskins. Are they in some hot water, man? Whew. Deshaun Jackson, on the second series of their 17-10 Week 1 loss to the Miami Dolphins, hurt his left hamstring. He's out 3 to 4 weeks.
Jackson's been a guy who's long had a history of injuries. And whatever problems the Redskins have had, they've only gotten progressively worse. They were really counting on him to be the go-to guy for whoever it was going to be their quarterback this year, whether it was going to be RG3 or Kirk Cousins.
Yep, and it's just getting even worse. Chris Culver, their cornerback, suspended for 1 game for personal conduct policy by the NFL for a case that took place outside of the league back in 2014. Hitting a bicyclist, fled the scene, and threatened a citizen with brass knuckles back in Santa Clara in March 2014. He signed a 4-year deal in the offseason for $32 million to be their star cornerback. Now he's going to be out this coming week when they need him the most against St. Louis.
Yep.
And Rashad Breeland is going to be returning to go in his place, but man, 1 game, he should have got suspended for more for that.
Yeah.
And Ndamukong Suh, of course, the Miami Dolphins' prized acquisition on their defensive line, won't get punished by the league for what some thought was him stomping on Alfred Morris.
Sound familiar?
Yeah. He got defensive tackle, his right leg contact Morris's face mask, and then knocking the tailback's helmet off. So, and
the Fish knew exactly what they were getting themselves into when they signed Ndamukong Suh. They knew that this guy had a reputation for being a dirty player. Let's see exactly what happens if he can keep to himself for the rest of the way, because he's not necessarily known for being one to play by the rules.
Well, he's an intimidator. He's sort of like your enforcer in hockey, if you will. He's the guy that's going to put the fear of God into a lot of quarterbacks and offensive lines. That's why Miami got him, to go with Cameron Wake and Olivier Vernon. But the league reviewed it. They didn't think it was anything that was worth a suspension. But honestly, because if this was any other player, this would have been ignored. But because of the fact that it's Ndamukong Suh, it's going to get magnetized. Okay, now let's go into recapping last week's games, starting with the Monday night fray in Atlanta between Philadelphia and the Eagles and the Falcons. Julio Jones, 141 yards, 2 touchdowns, including a key 47-yard pass that led to a 44-yard game-winning field goal by Matt Bryant, and the game-winning interception from Ricardo Allen with about 1:11 to go. Falcons beat the Eagles and the mad scientists 26-24.
By that much were the Falcons able to hold on to win.
And the crazy thing was, the Eagles outscored the Falcons in the second half when the Eagles were down 20-3. Imagine that.
Yeah.
And it's just, and even though, yes, DeMarco Murray had 8 carries and 9 yards, he did have a touchdown in the game.
Yeah.
But this is the result, that went for Philadelphia, unfortunately. Atlanta capitalized. Now, how about the Minnesota Vikings, San Francisco 49ers? Carlos Hyde, the second-year player out of Ohio State, 168 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. 23, he leads his 49ers to victory. Jim Tomsula's first victory.
That's an important start for the Niners, especially considering all the losses in manpower that they had to go through in the offseason.
The Rex Ryan show is in Western New York, and they got off to a huge start, limiting Andrew Luck to about 66 passer rating and 2 interceptions that the Bills got off of the Colts quarterback. And the Colts lose 27-14.
Yep, just a tremendous job by that Buffalo defense. Something tells me defense is going to be Buffalo's strong point this year, just like it was last year. They had the number 1 rated defense in the league last year. It's important for them to pick up where they left off last year. That way they can make up for whatever deficiencies they have at QB.
And a great debut for Tyrod Taylor in his first career start. All right, how about this? A game with no offensive touchdowns, but 2 pick sixes. I'm talking about the Baltimore Ravens, Denver Broncos, and yes, Akeem Talib got a huge 51-yard pick 6 off of Joe Flacco, and Jimmy Smith got a 24-yard pick 6 off of Peyton Manning. But in the end, it was former Ravens safety Darian Stewart with the game-winning interception off of Joe Flacco on a pass intended for Crockett Gilmore in the end zone with 28 ticks to go. Ravens lose to the Broncos 19-13.
Yeah, it just goes to show you that for as good as the quarterbacks on each side were, you can never count out the defense. Just a well-played game defensively by both teams. Denver was just better.
Okay, and how about, as I mentioned earlier, the Bengals beat the Raiders 33-13. Andy Dalton's 2 touchdowns, 2 Tyler Eifert.
Yeah, nice to see the Raiders back in mid-season form. Dreadful.
As for the Bengals, they're looking to pursue their first playoff win. Let's see if it happens this year.
Their first playoff win in 25 years.
Talk about firsts and all that. Marcus Mariota, 4 touchdowns, a perfect passer rating. First time since Fran Tarkenton did it in 1961 against the Bears. First time that a first-year QB, a rookie QB, has 4 touchdowns in the game. Huge.
As good as Marcus Mariota was in this game, let's not build this kid up to be a future Hall of Famer. He went up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a team that has been in transition for a while now.
But you should have seen that pass he threw to Kendall Wright, 52 yards, just 2 minutes into the game. That was huge right there.
It was impressive, but at the same time, look who it was against. It was against the Buccaneers, a team that has their own rookie quarterback, Jameis Winston, a guy who kind of looked a little bit out of his element playing in this game. He overthrew receivers. He committed a couple of turnovers.
Including that Cody Sensabaugh pick 6. That was his first pass in his career.
You ever heard the saying, be careful what you wish for because you just might get it? Well, the Buccaneers got Jameis Winston. Now they're going to have to live with that pick for a long time.
42-14. All right, I'm going to go quickly. The Saints lost to the Cardinals in the desert, 31-19. Carson Palmer's 3 touchdowns, 14-2 in his last 16 starts.
Carson Palmer is huge for whatever success the Cardinals want to achieve this year.
The Chargers, down 21-3 at the half against the Detroit Lions, come up huge in the second half, including the go-ahead 13-yard touchdown from Phillip Rivers to Ladarius Green. Chargers beat the Lions 33-28. And by the way, Phillip Rivers has tied Dan Fouts for the most franchise touchdowns with 254.
And the Lions just showed how much they missed Ndamukong Suh with that horrific letdown in the second half.
And talk about a pick 6 right here. Josh Norman gets a huge pick 6 off of Blake Bortles, helping the Carolina Panthers to a 29 victory from 30 yards out. And not only that, he pointed, "Not today, Junior."
Yep.
By the way, huge cost though. Luke Kuechly got concussed in the game. In the first half, trying to on a play to stop T.J. Yeldon, the rookie running back.
Well, it's also nice to see the Jaguars being back in regular season form. Worse.
Oh, yeah. Talk about worse right here. How about that Seattle Seahawks secondary, sans Cam Chancellor, giving up, and what I mean sans, of course, Deion Bailey in his place, giving up the game-tying 37-yard touchdown catch to Lance Kendricks that forced overtime, and then that big play on 4th and 1 to stop Marshawn Lynch from both Aaron Donald and Michael Brockers, and they beat the St. Louis Rams. Beat the Seattle Seahawks 34-31 overtime. Greg Zuerlein,
huge win for the Rams to start their season. It's time for the Seahawks to swallow their pride and just bring in Cam Chancellor. I mean, this guy has been so overlooked in that Legion of Boom secondary. It's time for them to just give him what he feels he's worth and just get it over with.
Without a doubt, I agree with you. This would be pretty stupid if they didn't. How about this? Jarvis Landry, though, came up huge. 69-yard punt return, game-winning touchdown. They beat the Washington Redskins 17-10.
Huge start for the Dolphins in this one, especially considering that they did next to nothing offensively.
And Ryan Tannehill, 22-34, 226 yards. I think this week, with the opponent they have, they're going to do a lot better than this week.
We'll see.
And then, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Houston Texans 27-20. Alex Smith and the team already ahead after the first half, 27-6, in fact. And the reason why it was so bad for Houston, it was, of course, it was Brian Hoyer. Two interceptions, including one that turned out to be a pick six. With about 6 minutes left in the game, they bring in Ryan Mallett, gets 2 big touchdowns, but too little, too late.
Well, the only silver lining in this is that Mallett is going to be starting this weekend.
Thank goodness. And he had a good rapport with DeAndre Hopkins, who's now the new number 1. 2 touchdowns, 98 yards in that game. Okay, we got the Packers, of course, beating the Bears 31-16. Aaron Rodgers 3 touchdowns, including 2 to a familiar face in James Jones.
It's a real shame that this really proud rivalry has been so one-sided in the last couple of years. But bottom line is the Packers are just better.
Oh, without a doubt. And, of course, the Giants, as I mentioned earlier, they lost 27-26. They had the ball, 3rd and goal at their own 1-yard line, going for a terrible passing play. Turns out they have to go for it. They go for the field goal. It's 26-20. When you give a guy like Tony Romo, who at the time had 23 career fourth-quarter game-winning drives, enough time with about 1:27, you're asking for trouble, and it ended up with a game-winning 11-yard touchdown pass from Romo to Jason Witten. Cowboys win 27-26.
I guarantee this loss is really going to set the Giants back this season. If they had won this game, they really could have been able to build on this going into this weekend. But clock management killed that team. I mean, how do you make your running back not score from the 1-yard line? Isn't the idea of the game, or one of the ideas of the game, to add to a lead? And they didn't do that. And there was a lot of he said coming from the Giants. We heard Rashad Jennings saying he was told not to score. Then Tom Coughlin denies the whole thing. And then Coughlin finally admitted his mea culpa. So too little too late here. They're going to have to try and move on from this.
I know. It was definitely, and despite the fact that defense was doing good early in the game, including that fumble return by Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie and Tremaine McBride with that interception that led to a touchdown from the 1-yard line. Despite all that, and Steve Spagnuolo trying to do his best, the offense really, they screwed themselves badly in this game. And now they got to come up with a huge way to get back against Atlanta this week.
Yeah.
They don't, and they start 0-2. We're already going to hear news of the decline of Tom Coughlin and his eventual being let go. Now, how about the New York Jets?
Now, finally, we have something to be proud about with the New York football scene. Bottom line, the Jets were better than the Browns, and they showed it. And in spite of the fact that Ryan Fitzpatrick was the quarterback, he actually looked good in this game. I mean, granted, he did commit a careless turnover.
Three
careless turnovers, and that's something that he has to work on. He worked well with Brandon Marshall, The Jet defense basically made the Browns offense look like one of the worst-rated offenses in the league. If it wasn't Josh McCown before he was hurt, it was Johnny Manziel committing some costly turnovers.
Oh, he committed the 3 turnovers. Sorry. He had an interception and 2 forced fumbles. The interception, of course, off by Marcus Williams. And it was really good to see Ryan Fitzpatrick, the professor, and Brand Marshall. They really were in sync with each other in this game, including that big touchdown catch. And how about Brandon Marshall saving the game? You know, when Fitzpatrick threw that interception to Tayshaun Gibson in the first half, the fact that Marshall was able to come and steal the ball back, force a fumble, and recover it, that was tremendous gameplay.
Yep. Big win for the Jets to start off the Todd Bowles era. Let's see if they can sustain this, though.
All right.
That's one thing about the NFL. Your momentum is only as good as the next game.
Well, speaking of next week, of course, Week 2 got off to a huge start last night in Kansas City. Big AFC West divisional rivalry game. Denver Broncos, Kansas City Chiefs. Let's go to the game. It's 24-all with just under a minute to go. And what happens? Marshall, of course, the defensive player for the Denver Broncos, forces a fumble. And then Bradley Roby, the second-year player out of Ohio State, recovers the fumble for the game-winning 21-yard touchdown. And they beat Kansas City 31-24.
Well, first off, Peyton Manning showed why he is one of the all-time great quarterbacks in this game, throwing that touchdown with 36 seconds left. And second, now I see why certain teams are skeptical about running a play with that little time left in a really, really close game. What happens? First play of the drive, a handoff results in a fumble, which results in a return for a touchdown. That was what decided that game right there.
And after Niles Davis, the second-string running back on the Chiefs squad, got the game-tying touchdown with about 2:27 left on an 8-yard run. You know, and then all of a sudden the Broncos couldn't get anything going on their offensive drive, and with about 27 ticks on the clock, Jamal Charles, a guy who's like your best player on the team, not just as a running back, but a guy who can catch out of the backfield, fumbles the ball because of Brandon Marshall stripping it out of his hand, and then Roby getting the pickup. It was not a great start for Peyton Manning. By the way, he became the second player in history with over 70,000 career yards.
He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. That's all I can say.
And he's 14-1 lifetime against the Chiefs. Now let's go in the neighborhood quickly. We got the New York Jets visiting the Indianapolis Colts for a Monday night showdown.
I want to see what the Jets do against a team that's a step up in class competitive-wise. They're going up against Andrew Luck and the Colts.
And they're pissed.
Yeah. A very, very angry Colts squad, which lost the game they felt they never should have lost. This is a game where the Jets might be ripe for pulling off an upset here because the Colts have a very, very weak offensive line. They still haven't solved their running game. Sorry, but I'm not really sure if Frank Gore is the answer for them after all. Could it be that maybe he's on his last legs? Or does he still have a little something left?
He had only 8 carries of 31 yards in the last game. It wasn't just him, but Andre Johnson had 4 catches on 10 targets for 24 yards in the last game. If they really want to be that veteran presence that puts the Colts over in this division, gets them to that next level, they got to do a lot better than that in this game against the Jets secondary, which is going to be an issue. See, last year, this would have been an easy game for them to pick apart that Jets secondary.
Yep.
This is not the same secondary anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And even when Kamari got injured last week, they still had Marcus Williams who stepped up. You got, of course, D-Rev on his own island. And here's the factor that people are not even thinking about. T.Y. Hilton, he did hurt his leg last week.
Yeah.
And who knows if he's gonna be a game-time decision going Monday night. So that's another factor for the Colts that they have to think about in terms of their offense.
Mm-hmm. Now, at the same time, this is the Colts' home opener, so you know they're going to try and want to make up for the atrocity of losing in the season opener. Plus, who would you rather have as your quarterback? Andrew Luck or Geno Smith or Ryan Fitzpatrick? I'll take Andrew Luck any day of the week. That's why I think the Colts bounce back to win on Monday night.